Hello, everybody. This is Roger Sutherland with Guitar Gear Locker, and this is my faithful sidekick, Alex Books, and we have the awesome Jeremy Sosville from Sanhedrin with us tonight.
Good
We
day.
sit around and have some good topics, good conversation, and shoot the bull for a little bit. First of all, I'd like to apologize for screwing up the all of the man. I had the dates wrong. I tried to explain it to Alex. It probably doesn't make any sense. Like when you're scheduling these events, it automatically starts changing the times on you, and it changes to like I think Japan time at one time. So when you schedule it, it just keeps changing everything. And I guess I'm getting old and can't keep up with the technology. So I screwed it all up. Sorry. I'll do better. I won't. So yeah, we have Cody with us tonight. Cody's checking in
Yeah,
already.
that's the kind of thing I deal with every day where like you get a software update and suddenly everything that worked perfectly fine now
Yep.
takes 3 extra steps to turn on or
Yeah.
changes.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I had the post right, and then it asked you when you're getting ready to post it. It says, "Hey, do you want to create it as an event?" So as soon as you do that, it goes in and reformats it, and it changed the time zone. It changed the date on it because I guess it assumes like if I'm scheduling it today, it's probably thinking like, "Oh, well, you don't want to do it today. You want to do it tomorrow." I didn't realize it scheduled it for tomorrow until I got the text from Alex, and I was like, "Damn it!"
Today,
Yeah, I did. What's ahead?
so today is tomorrow, right?
Yeah, well, and
Alright.
there's a couple different things, even when you're on YouTube, and there's all like worthless stuff, but I mean, good to know if anybody's ever doing this. Like when you're scheduling this stuff on YouTube, it automatically defaults to the next day also. But anyways, I'll do
We're
better
learning
next.
so much.
What's that?
You're learning so much, you know?
Oh my God, yeah, you can teach an old
Never
dog
thought
new
when you
tricks,
picked
I
up a
guess.
guitar, you'd have to learn how to schedule streams and
Yeah,
all the other crap that we have to learn just to get our stuff out there.
yeah,
Yeah.
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 I remember doing
So, what's our first topic, Alex? What do you want to talk about first? We have a couple.
Well, one thing we were discussing the other day, me and Roger on the phone was, let's see your take on this, Jeremy. We were talking about pickups
uh,
and how important they are. What pickups that you have in your guitar, and then obviously there's the active pickups, there's the passive pickups, and all that. And I don't know. I mean, I think you're a passive guy, right?
yeah.
And so what's your take on that?
I think it's kind of like everything as you go older, you go down the rabbit hole. What I mean, I think pickups are just as important as probably anything besides maybe the speaker,
Right.
Hmm.
because it's the main. It's like if it were a PA system and it's a voice, it's a microphone out of a speaker. It's the same
Right.
thing. And I find like different. I mean, I'm mostly in the passive world, like you said, and I usually use like a medium hot for live, and then in the studio, I'll try all kinds of stuff, and you just get. I mean, I have 5 Les Pauls. They all have different bridge pickups, and they all have totally unique qualities about them, despite being slabs of mahogany with a quarter inch of maple on them.
Right.
So
Right.
they're a
Yeah.
huge difference. And then in terms of passive versus active, I don't have a lot of experience with active. I know I played stuff with EMGs in it that was a lot of fun, particularly Les Pauls. They're like machine guns when you put EMGs in them.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I guess what I really noticed because I've been kind of using the same style humbucker for probably several years, like that medium hot, like JB or slightly hotter or slightly less hot than that, like and when I got a vintage style guitar, when I got a 59 Les Paul reissue with the PAF style pickups, I was like, "Oh, this is like a different guitar almost because it just has
Right.
this different, it compresses differently with the amp. It's got a different frequency response. You can kind of hit it differently and get different things out of the guitar than
Hmm.
a hotter pickup. So I think they matter a lot. But again, it's like it's everything that winds up making you sound the way you sound. So you could have a great pickup and a shit guitar, and it's not going to be as. I have a JB in this piece of crap guitar, my first guitar I ever bought, and even that can't make that guitar sound good. So it's not a end all be all, but if you have like a less expensive guitar, like you know, like I want like an Epiphone would be an example, because my first decent guitar was an Epiphone Les Paul, and I put Duncans in it after a while, and it was like a huge difference. So it's a cheap way to make a good guitar that you like how it feels turn into like a much better guitar.
Yeah.
Well,
the way that when we were talking on the phone the other day, I brought it up because I've tried with my business to have a kind of a presence on TikTok. So I was watching a TikTok video, and there's a guy in a shop. He's a luthier, actually. Actually, that's what his title is. He's a pretty young guy, and it was a TikTok. It said, basically, pickups don't mean anything, because all of your effects control it. I mean, his assertion is like, you could just have one pickup and you could play anything through your effects. And I watched the whole thing and I was like, what in the hell?
I've heard that argument when I worked at a guitar shop. There was a vintage guy who was, because I was like, I was telling him like I like pickups that are like on the hottish side, and he's like, only old stuff, because he's a vintage guitar manager or whatever.
Right.
And he was like, if you need more output, get a boost pedal. And I'm like, but Roger, you said you're making pickups now, right?
Yeah.
You're with that.
Uh-huh.
Like when you add more winds to a pickup and make it hotter, it changes the frequency response of the pickup and how that interacts with the wood of the guitar. So it definitely matters. Now, on the other side, if you don't have a hot pickup and you like how your not hot pickup sounds, but you want more output, there are other ways to do it. But it's still gonna, like my 59 reissue. If I want a boost, I use a clean boost pedal, and it still sounds like it, versus putting a hotter pickup, which would roll off some of the top end that I like.
Well, you know what? I was thinking while I was watching this guy talk about this, I was thinking like opposites. Like you take just a stock PAF that would come out in just any run-of-the-mill guitar, and put like what is it, a dark winter, black winter, or whatever, like super grungy, nasty, passive. Like they sound completely different, and it doesn't take a trained ear to hear that. And that's the first thing that jumped in my head. Like they're two different worlds, and we're not even talking about active over passive. And then when I'm making pickups, if I put an Alnico 5 in rather than Alnico 2, it's going to sound totally different. And I think I almost shot a comment in, but I don't like to get into it with people on the internet. Arguing on the internet's a big zero. Well, but you can. I'd like to hear his take, and I think he just did it for clicks. I saw another guy from another luthier he builds guitars. It looks like he does some nice work, and he kind of accused him of doing clickbait, and that's probably what he was doing, trying to get views. But I'm curious to see, like, I think you can tell a distinct difference between a machine wound and a hand wound. And I know some people don't like it called hand wound, but just some dude holding a wire. I think you could tell a difference. And Alex, we've heard some of mine, and not like I'm the most awesome pickup liner, but they just sound different. Because I suck.
I think it's just that combination of for me, it's quality instrument, the right pickup in the instrument, the fingers obviously that can talk, and a good quality tube amp. And I think those are the main ingredients right there. But like when you're entering into this digital world, and like this young kid you were talking about, you said he was a luthier, and he was talking about,
what, on his page he said he went to I don't want to give him any publicity, to tell you the truth, but he went to a lutherie school for 6 months and learned how to be a guitar builder. But
and then there's the other the other side of things is the active side. And this is what I found out over the years. And I'll use one example is the EMG 81. Now, that pickup to me will sound the same in any guitar, and I never really heard the pickup really working with the resonance of the wood in the instrument. Now, and I mentioned this to you, Roger, and I'm curious what your thoughts on this is, Jeremy. Now, with the Fishman pickups, the technology is a little bit different, but for me, it sounds like I'm hearing the wood, like the resonance, working off the Fishmans with the instrument, and they don't sound the same. Even though the technology is the same, it's consistency. But the thing is, when I may have the same pickups in a different instrument, and it sounds quite different. With the EMG 81s, it pretty much, I don't know. I never really heard too much of a difference.
I kind of equate, for my personal experience, the EMG 81 is sort of like what a PV 5150 is for amps, where like when you plug in your guitar, you're going to hear more of the amp than the guitar,
right?
Or what the guitar is. Now the amp is probably less drastic, or it's more drastically different probably than the pickup. But like there are certain amps or distortion pedals. Like if you plug into a Rat pedal and crank it up, you're hearing the Rat pedal no matter what guitar it is or something like that.
Right.
But what's weird about the EMGs is that they do that. Like they're fun because it's just fun to have that kind of clean headroomy power.
Yeah.
But, I kind of like pickups and amps as well, where, again, I mostly play Les Pauls, and they're the same model guitar, but they all sound different in their own ways, and I like to hear that when I'm playing because I like to interact with those differences.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. What is it? We have somebody just pop in. Of course, we have Cody here. Cody, Fishmans are the way. Sometimes EMGs. Yo.
Only death is real.
Only death is real. I'm ashamed to say you had to explain. I read it. I read it completely incorrectly.
Death?
The first time.
Only
death
death is real.
Alex and I were talking. I was like, that guy. Only this is real. He goes, no, that's not what it is. Like, yes, I am a dumbass.
Well, according to Sodom, there's the song "Death Like Silence." It's death like. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
He joins us every Saturday. He likes to hang out with us. He's cool.
He's 20 years.
I shouldn't have told him I didn't know what to say his screen name.
It's funny, like, Jeremy, you're a passive guy, and I've kind of gone more towards that. That's the sound I'm leaning towards over the years.
Yeah.
And, when I came across the Fishman pick, it was more like that. Like I have a guitar that has these Fishman classics in it. So there's two voicings. One is based on a vintage PAF, and the other is based on a hot rodded PAF.
Oh,
and the hot rodded sounds more close to like a JB or something like that.
Yeah.
And and then the other pickup, this sounds like some old Gibson pickup in a Les Paul or something.
Right.
But I like that sound. That fuzzy EMG 81. I just drifted away from that, and
it does some stuff really cool. But I mean, for me, I don't know what it is about. I don't know why this is, but I kind of like to have to work a little bit when I'm playing.
I work a little bit, and it's the same thing with that set, that classic pickups that I have in the one guitar. It's like you really got to dig,
and I like
it work. Yeah, me too.
I had recently. I had two of the headsets, the EMGs, come through, and they sound different from any EMG that I've heard come through here. But that's because they sound a little bit like Fishmans to me.
Well,
Could be. I mean, they remind me a lot of the Will Adlers that we put in.
when he
Uh,
voiced them, he had said he wanted them to be more like a blend of the best of
Yeah.
passive with the best of active. I think.
Right, which is kind of the same description that the Fishmans use, and so I did get a pass. Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. Yeah, and he's been. You know what?
Cool.
I think it's a good idea, man. I love them. I like the moderns.
Alex will tell you to do it.
Yeah, do
Yeah.
it, man. If you have to ask, the answer is yes. So call me
But-
and I can hook you up too. Full disclosure, I'm a Fishman dealer.
Roger is a fish dealer, so you can
Yeah,
contact
hit up
him directly.
Roger, Bath.
So, but I can tell you, so I don't want anybody to ever think that we're making this like a commercial. I'm only a dealer because I like them. I wouldn't sell them. I'm not a dealer for anything else. And full disclosure on those, they asked me if I wanted to carry the classics, and she said, and she was very nice. They called me this week to follow up. They're a good company. She said, "You want to carry the classics? They sound a lot like PAFs." And I said, "Well, if somebody wants something that sounds like a PAF, I'll try to wind them a PAF."
Yeah.
So yeah, but they're great. I think what would you recommend, Alex? I like the Will Adlers, and I just put him in another guitar. He loves them.
Will Adler's like yeah, it's more of like that middle ground of like
Uh-oh.
a
Ruh-roh.
vintage PAF meets more hot rodded. Oh, we were going for a second. So
Yeah.
I don't know. It depends on what you're going for, you know.
But you know,
Yeah.
getting back to this dude on TikTok,
Yeah,
like,
I'm curious about him too.
if he's a young man, there are a lot of younger guitar players that I guess if you have a digital amplifier setup or digital tone station or whatever you
Yeah.
want to call it, I guess the output of your pickup's not going to make as big of a difference because you're just using whatever input level to match your unity gain and stuff.
Right.
So maybe it's not, but like if you plug different pickups into a tube amp, whether it's a clean sound or a, all the way up to insanity, like you definitely feel differences. And
Oh
frankly,
yeah.
I mean,
Well, the thing is, Jeremy, Roger brought this up not too long ago, was that like what you're saying here about the difference between plugging into like some digital stuff,
yeah,
like when Roger's done winding one of his pickups, he's not going to test it through his digital profile, or he's going to
Oh,
go
right.
into a tube amp, to make sure
Right.
that that sounds properly.
well, you get the
That's
whole
true.
push and pull and the experience of like what you've just done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and Jeremy, I'm glad you said that because I was thinking the same thing. I was going to kind of give this kid I call him a kid only because I'm way older than him, but and he's probably a good guitar tech. He does good lessons online. I've watched some of his stuff. He's really good with things. He may have been trying to go for clicks, but I was thinking like that other dude ripped him to shreds.
Really?
And he's also good. But I was thinking the same thing, and Alex just hit the nail on the head. If you can take a Strat with a single coil and run it through a fractal and play Eruption and sound pretty damn close, it's pretty artificial. And if I wind a pickup, I don't run out to my fractal and test that pickup on a fractal because I can make it sound almost like anything.
Exactly.
I test it on my tube amp so I can hear truly what the pickup alone sounds like.
Right.
So
You don't build an engine and put it into a racing simulator,
right.
Yeah.
You put it into the smallest, lightest car you can find.
Exactly.
Jeremy, do you have in particular favorite pickup that you gravitate towards, or?
Well, I guess it kind of depends on the guitar. So like, I guess my default would be the Gibson 498T. That's what came in my custom, and it's been in there ever since. I've since put one in my black Les Paul Studio. And I just like the output level and like the balance, and there's some nice low end chunk. It's a little darker than I'd like, but recently, because I got that Jackson Rhodes a while back, and it had an Invader in it, which is just like, it's too much for me. So I
Mhm.
got the Duncan Custom 5. Speaking of the same pickup with different magnets, they make the custom, the custom
Mhm.
this and that, and the custom 5. So it's an Alnico 5 magnet, about similar output to the 498, but the mids are a little scooped slightly,
Right.
and the
Right.
top end is a little brighter than a pickup of that's that hot.
Right.
So I would think that's kind of my new favorite in terms of aftermarket stuff. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But like
Nice.
it's like that 14K-ish range. Anything above that, it's because I do play clean stuff a lot too. So I want to be able to cut the clean channel, and
Mhm.
maybe the bridge pickup is just about to break up so that when I go to the neck, it's totally pristine.
Yeah.
And you have like a JB is even kind of hot where like you put it on the clean channel and it's still got this kind of crunch to it at a certain point.
Right.
So
Here's another JB Jazz combo.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
have a Jazz in the Jackson. It's the first time I ever had one in anything. It's pretty cool. It's very crisp and clean. I think
Right.
I prefer the 59 over it for my taste, but it's
Right.
good. It's like objectively good.
Yeah,
So what
I see people pairing up a 59 and a JB or a Jazz and a JB. I see
Yeah.
that a lot.
Mhm.
So how
Yeah,
do you compare the tone in that Rhodes that you got, as far as like compared to your Les Pauls?
Well, it's tighter, but still has low end chunk. But like
Mm.
pick hitting the string, that like kind of it's got this kind of ice picky, like aggressive thing going on there.
Hmm.
And it's full. Yeah, it's different. I recorded the new Sanhedrin album. I used it quite a bit, where I would blend it with a Les Paul.
Right, right.
Um, and it just has like an articulation and aggression about it that's pretty cool. Like when I first got it, I never had a V guitar before. And so I started playing and I'd be in certain registers and I would hear things from my favorite records tonally.
Mhm.
Like I'd hear shit from like
Yeah,
Rust in
yeah.
Peace or even like Scorpions licks and stuff where there's just like something about that body style that like it cuts, but it's tight, but it's not really missing anything either.
Right.
So
Yeah,
I've been digging it,
yeah.
man. I
Yeah.
Nice.
kind of stumbled on that guitar accidentally and just like turns out I love it. So
Right.
Yeah. When I saw yours, I was like, yeah, I got to get another old Rhodes.
sorry,
Yeah.
sorry, Cynthia.
Yeah, yeah, that's a little ways away, but
Yeah,
yeah, I'd love to get like a 84, 85. That would be kind of,
yeah. Mine's like a late '90s.
Yeah.
and that those are all great,
Yeah, it's
Mine's
cool.
a
It's a lot of fun to just have like a sort of a ergonomically senseless but fast, loud, cool thing. And I'm a huge Randy Rhoads, disciple too. So it was just kind of
Yeah.
it was bound to happen. But I took to it more than when I got it, I wasn't sure if I was going to take to that shape and that style with the huge frets and the Floyd and the kind of got a wider fretboard too.
Yeah.
yeah,
But yeah, it's just a lot of, especially for rhythm playing. It's just got this like aggressive, crunchy, just everything about it has inspired a lot of riffs. So if you get a guitar and it brings riffs and songs out of you, then you got a good
Yeah.
guitar. So
I
Yeah.
have a 97 that I found on the internet, and the guy had bought it in 97, put it in the case, and never took it out again.
wow.
Yeah, and I immediately put Fishman's in it.
Mine had all kinds of issues. I was like, man, this is a really good price. So I drove like 3 hours to get it.
Yeah.
And then I got it home and there was all kinds of like the saddles of the Floyd Rose were like fused and they didn't hinge
Oh, yeah.
because
Yeah.
I think whoever owned it, I think just sweat the guitar into a state of,
Yeah.
but you know what? Because Floyd stuff's all compatible across whatever guitar
Yeah.
you have. I think I spent less than $200 in
Yeah.
part to get it replaced. I did it all myself, and it's fine now.
Yeah.
Now
I
the
just had one come in that had a couple, the guy had, actually is going to get ready to pick it up tomorrow. The next day, we did some FU tone upgrades on it, but
Yeah.
he got it. He put it in his cart with Guitar Center and changed his mind. And they called him the next day and gave him a killer price on it, so he picked it up. And
should
it
try
had a
that.
couple bad saddles on it, and actually they were chrome and the rest were black. And I mean, like you said, they're all interchangeable. I had a couple saddles. I threw them on there. He's good to go.
It's definitely from the Leo Fender school of like just
Yeah.
bolted on, interchangeable parts. Like, yeah, because the nut was worn down, so I got a new nut. Boom.
Right.
Action
Right.
straight.
Yeah.
And I did
Pretty
I upgraded the block, and like I got some FU tone parts too for that.
Right. Right.
Nice.
But yeah, it's fun.
Not to make it a I feel like sometimes we make these into a commercial, but they're more like a conversation. So I'd ask you this if we were just talking. You play a Les Pauls. Have you seen the FU Tone Bridge?
No.
The brass? It's actually pretty good.
All right.
I have another one. He just a customer asked me to order one earlier. I put one, and we got to do a AB because it was a guy that had two Les Pauls, older ones in here, and I put the bridge on one, and he had a stock bridge on the other, and even unplugged, he picked it up as soon as he strummed it. He goes, "Oh yeah, immediate difference."
Cool.
Yeah, they're pretty good. They're pretty good. I like them.
I'll try.
I'll
have to
I
try.
think I saw Slash using, or it might have been something I saw about Slash putting them in some of his Les Pauls.
And don't feel self-conscious about selling stuff. Like, we're guitar players, and all these companies are just other guitar players.
Yeah,
like,
I don't.
You know what I mean? Like, it's like,
I'm
hey,
just saying it because
thank you.
there's always gonna be one guy that says, "Oh, that's all they do is talk about it." I don't give a shit. I mean, I'll talk about whatever companies I want to talk about if I like them,
Right.
But I don't get it. I know some guys will turn their glasses around. They don't want to give free. I don't give a rat's ass. So if I like the product, I'll talk about them.
This is more back to the Jackson Rhodes. We were talking about, and I actually saw this the other day. And I guess this is just me nerding out about some guitars I'll probably never own. But so the you guys are all familiar with the Music Zoo, right?
In Long Island, they get
So the guy, he got these. I can't remember the owner name, the main guy at the Music Zoo. So he got these 3 Jackson Rhodes that he got in the shop, that he based the specs from the original ones, like, from the early 80s, even like, the old writing, the inlays differently, some of the brass, like pickup, what do you call that? The pickup guard or whatever.
Pickup ring.
The ring. Yeah. And just, I can imagine they got to be at least 7,000-8,000 each or whatever.
Oh yeah.
Just, I got to send
guitars.
Alex, what bridge pickup do you use in your ESP Maverick with Agoraphobia? That is an EMG. That's getting replaced actually with a Fishman that's at Rogers.
Alex has a new type.
Yeah. But these, I'll send you the link, Jeremy, and Roger. You got to check these guitars.
I do the same thing. I just look at stuff and I'm like drooling and going, I know I'll never afford this, but wouldn't that be cool? Although, to be funny story, before I came on here, I got invited to this luthier's shop earlier this evening because he makes these wild guitars where they're a lot of traditional shapes, but they're topped with this stuff called Fordite, which is like layers of automotive paint that they chip away to create all these crazy swirls.
Oh.
But he's charging like, rightly so. They're all made one at a time, like by hand, and some of them are like $5,000, $6,000, $7,000. Where I'm like,
oh yeah,
I'm never gonna own one of these, but it sure is cool to play it.
Yeah. I've seen some really cool. Somebody brought one in. It's probably been a year or two now. They had it had old like LP albums, like the pickup covers were made out of albums, and the pick guard was made out of albums. It was and most of it was like reclaimed wood, reclaimed things, reclaimed wiring in it.
Oh, wow.
I forget who the maker was. It was pretty interesting.
Yeah, this guy, he was using some conventional woods, but he was also using stuff like he had a Les Paul style guitar, and it
Yeah.
was made out of sycamore instead of mahogany,
Oh,
but with a mahogany. It's called, I got to shout him out. I probably, because he was nice enough to let me go. So it's called Hot Guitars. I think it's HAUGHT Guitars up here in
Oh,
the country.
yeah,
nice.
that's cool.
Yeah. Really cool stuff. But yeah, he was just like, I just want to make, he's like, there's nothing really that different out there in the guitar land. So I'm just trying to do something that is distinct in that world.
So,
Yeah. And it's pretty boutiquey and, you know,
Yeah.
it's high end stuff, but it's fun to like dip your toe in there. It's like being invited to like a cocktail party when you're like one of us, you know,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
go to a fancy hotel and just be like, I know I'm not supposed to be here. And that's why this is fun.
Yeah.
So what's your guys' takes on take on mounted pickups?
Well, like direct mount versus ring mount.
Yeah.
I had one guitar that was direct mounted and I didn't like the guitar. And I don't think it was from that. But again, I think in my mind, it makes sense that there would be some sort of difference, like mounting the thing, picking up the sound to the thing that's resonating the sound.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like the difference between a Floyd and a Tune-o-matic. There's just a different level of contact.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't have enough experience with that to compare it to the other to really offer a detailed opinion other than to say there's probably, I'm at the age and like the amount of time I've been playing where I can hear subtleties that I never even knew existed like 10, 15, 20 years ago with guitars.
Right.
So
Sure.
somebody who's
Yeah.
been playing a long time tells me there's a difference with that, like Van Halen does with his, he was doing it with his. I'm inclined to believe that guy. He's played guitar a lot at a high level in front of, you know, in every situation. And you just hear stuff the more you do it, as you know, Alex, like,
Yeah. As you go along.
shows in a year, you're going to like, your tone is going to change, even though you're not changing any knobs because you're hearing detail, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean,
Well,
I have
know,
that are mounted, the pickups are mounted. And, it's hard to say because all three of the guitars have the stains as well. And I noticed that's doing something. It's a little brighter, I think, like cutting through. I don't know if it's hard to say, to really give a definitive answer,
That's not a level of rabbit holing that I'm willing to like pick. My guitars have to be direct mounted. The other problem with that is I think raising the levels becomes an issue. And I would rather with that, I need that trade-off because I've got guitars where I have the pickup here for 3 years and then I'm like, I'm missing something. What if I do this or this?
Right.
And then it fixes that problem because again, you hear stuff that you weren't hearing before, or I think that combined with a change in preferences, like the stuff I want out of my guitar now is different than it was like 5 years ago. And so it's just never ending levels of insanity that we get to channel productively to guitar. And if I didn't have guitar to do this, I don't know, that'd be scary to think of how I would channel this obsessiveness.
I think it's hard to A/B them. I played this. I just did a pickup mounting system, the brass direct mounts, and an EVH. But I played that, but without being able to A/B it with a direct copy of it is hard. I mean, because it just sounds good. But the person that I did it for has 3 EV. This is his 3rd EVH, and when he brought this one in, he said he wanted the brass direct mounts. It's the PMS system through FU Tone. And I said, do you think it makes a difference? And he goes, oh, yeah, definitely makes a difference. I A/B'd it with one without and one with. So, according to him, he thought it made a difference.
If you think it makes a difference, it does.
Sure.
I heard a guy tell me once that the white Fender celluloid picks sounded different than the tortoiseshell ones, and that's why he had to have the white ones.
Right.
Huh?
I don't know.
You know, I've even heard, you know, oh well, this color paint, you know, on this guitar.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's Billy Corgan.
I used to joke with that because I have the 2 white Les Pauls.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, the white ones just sound better. I don't know. And I would see if the person would be like, really?
Yeah, well, wait a minute. So Billy Corgan said that in an interview.
He said white ones sound better?
White ones sound better. I think it was white.
Mine
as
sound
opposed-
great, but I
Yeah.
don't think it's the paint.
Well,
like
wait a minute. Hey, Alex, I forgot to tell you on our last live, we talked about picks and I talked about Acetique Island. It was Ed King.
Oh, okay.
Ed King played with a seashell from Acetique Island, Maryland.
That's why.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. I
Wow.
was like, who in the hell was that? It took
Isn't
me
it
about a
weird?
half hour to look it up.
Isn't it weird how like the top level outliers of guitar often use these unorthodox things? The rest of us
Yeah.
are just normal.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Brian May with the
Brian
paint,
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Billy Gibbons with the peso, or
Yeah.
like
That's kind
Eddie
of what
holding
brought
his
it up.
pick with like all of his fingers. Like
Yeah.
this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Hatfield.
They did
Yes.
say in the article though that Ed King has signature pick. So they said, well, he no longer uses that. He uses his signature pick. So
Oh,
I guess
sure.
he traded in the seashell.
Well, it's weird. When we were on tour with Cannibal Corpse, I remember Rob Barrett was throwing picks out to the audience,
Uh-huh.
but then he uses a different pick than the one he was throwing in the audience. Like he
Oh
had-
yeah. Well, I do the same thing.
Do you?
Yeah. I
That's
keep,
so interesting.
keep the good ones. I'm just like, oh, I got so many good ones. That's all right. Let's throw
Well,
these out.
Inflation is real. I was on tour with with Ross the Boss's band last year, and this
Oh,
drummer
yeah,
Sean, the drummer Sean, he also plays for KK's Priest now. He's a really great drummer, really great dude.
Oh wow, that's
But-
awesome.
He was like every night he'd be like, these people, they we're in like Germany, like they all want my drumsticks, but they're $8 a pair now. I can't just be giving these away every night.
Right.
Exactly, like picks. You know.
Yeah,
It's just like,
yeah.
all right, you know.
So fans, if you're listening, ask for picks before you ask for drumsticks, unless you're like a diehard.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. True.
Hard out there.
So
what else?
speaking of EDH, you were gonna bring up something. You were
Yeah,
talking-
yeah. I was just looking at. I have my list over here. So I saw that. I was just kind of looking at fresh topics that are going on, and it's the EVH. Let's see if I can get this to work now. EVH Civilian Series.
So,
Are you all
yeah,
able
I
to see
saw
that?
those.
Do you really?
No,
I like it.
I saw those. I think it's
Oh, I thought you said I love those. I was like, really?
no. Well, if I'm gonna get that guitar, I would have.
I like
to-
that black sharp.
Yeah.
They do look cool, but like
But you're like, I'll do that myself.
halfway with it.
Yeah, the relicking, I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, if you do a good relic job, it's okay. But I'm
Yeah.
a little OCD, as you know, Alex. This
You know-
one, I don't know. I think of a Silver Burst as more like a nostalgic guitar, and I don't know.
You know, it's funny about relicking, and I thought about this recently, is that okay, you wear the guitar in, and obviously, when you get a new guitar, you want to do it yourself. You got to wear that thing in,
Yeah.
and the thing is, what are those guitars going to look like 30 years from now that somebody's played it to shit? Is
They're
it
gonna look
just
like
going to fall
Rory
apart or what?
Gallagher's Stratocaster or something.
Right.
No paint on.
Well, and that doesn't look bad.
Yeah, it's all right.
Yeah,
I
it's
I
just
like the
kinda
black one the
curious.
best.
I
I
think
think you look
that-
cool, but the pick guard is just. It's so obvious what it is while not being it.
yeah.
Yeah.
If I'm gonna do the Van Halen guitar, I'm just gonna have to go full dumbass with it and get the stripes and the whole thing.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's not for me.
I just ran across this earlier, and I was just curious to see. When I run across things, and Alex said the same thing. We're like, "So, what do you think about this? Did you
Yeah.
see this?" And I think I did okay until I don't the silver burst. I was just like, "Oh, I don't know, not feeling it."
The blue one is kind of like a Jakey Lee vibe,
Yeah,
Yeah,
totally. Yeah,
yeah,
you're right.
but
Yeah.
with the Van Halen vibe. So maybe
Yeah.
there's like a guy out there who just loves Jakey Lee and Van Halen, and that's his perfect guitar.
Yeah, here I am.
Yeah,
think-
there you go.
I think that they're gonna do anything they can do to make as much money as they can off of as many designs as they can, because there's
I
there's
mean,
guys that'll keep buying them.
look how many different 5150s there are now.
Yeah, exactly.
The
Well,
OG,
and the relicking is I mean, that's always like a hot button issue with some people, and I went out, Alex, you probably remember the story. I wanted a custom shop Strat, and I wanted it in the green, and you can't find it without relicking,
Oh, really?
and like I said, I wasn't joking, like, the OCD thing, I like things clean and shiny, cars, no it doesn't matter what it is.
Mhm.
So the best that I could do was what they call the Journeyman, which has like some light cracking in it and things like
Oh,
that. So
That's probably like
and
my top.
it was it was a custom shop, and it came in, and you get all excited, and I opened it up, and my wife saw you know the lid go up on the case, and it looks beautiful inside the case. And then she came over and took a close look at the guitar, and she was like, "The hell happened to it?" I said, "What do you mean?" She goes, "Did you seriously pay for this?"
Yeah.
She did, and I mean, it was like, it's one of those things. Like, I probably look pretty decent looking from 50 feet. So that guitar was like 10 feet good looking, like 10 foot away. It looked
Oh,
flawless.
okay.
But when you get up on it, it was checked and everything. It actually it played good. I'm sorry I got rid of the damn thing, but
That,
yeah, she
that
did not
guitar
get
that,
it.
that guitar you got for your birthday, Jeremy,
Yeah.
when we played the Irving Plaza show, now that's a Murphy lab, right?
Yeah. So that
Is that
it's
is it
the
relic?
same idea, it sounds like, where it's called ultralight age. They have levels of aging.
Yeah,
So
right.
they didn't throw it down the stairs or pretend that it got played by a guy in a bar for 50 years.
Right.
But
Yeah,
it does have checking,
Yeah.
right.
including on the back of the neck and the headstock and stuff like that, and some wear on the metal. And it does feel kind of cool. Like the
Yeah.
wear, it just feels a little old and broken in.
Yeah. Right.
In a
Some
good
of
way,
the
right?
relic stuff
Yeah.
does feel cool, like when you play it.
Mhm.
Because if you
I
think about it, like Alex and I, we tour, so we have guitars that are legit
Yeah. Yeah.
broken in. But
Yeah.
if you're somebody who is more of a hobbyist or
Right.
what have you, doesn't do that stuff,
Right.
like you're never going to get that feel unless you either buy a vintage instrument that somebody else has broken in and you pay out the ass for it, or you can buy a relic one and kind of get a replica of the feel. It's
Right.
not quite the same. I've played vintage instruments and they're their own mojo for sure.
Right.
Sure.
But it does get you that sort of vibe. So I get it. I'm not a relic hater personally.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Some of
I
them
didn't
look like
necessarily hate it. I
yeah,
didn't like it. I would have rathered it, and I think some of this, and I find it. I talk to a lot of customers when I come here, so there's something about public safety and military people. They like things clean and shiny,
yeah.
and I guess it's just the way that we came up through our respective
Beds are
services.
made. You want your guitar polished,
Yeah, exactly. So it's like we don't want it relict, really, but
Yeah.
that's all I could get. You couldn't get a new looking one. That was the best I could do with a Journeyman. So I'm not necessarily looking for it to look road worn.
Right. No, I mean, I like a pretty neat looking guitar, because even my most genuinely worn out guitars, well, except the black one, that one was fucked up when I got
Oh
it.
yeah.
But
Yeah, stupid.
like my
Yeah.
custom, I've had since 2006,
Yeah.
and every scratch on it is mine. But it still looks like it's in good shape. It's shiny.
Mhm.
generally.
Mhm.
There's some, if you know, when you hold it up close, you see some stories in there.
Yeah, yeah.
But on stage, it looks like a a well-maintained guitar because it
Sure.
is. It's just that if you play something, if you use anything long enough, it's going to wear out
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
right.
or down.
That's
And I'm just
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
We froze.
assuming that's the main guitar on the last few Sanhex and all, or is that what?
I think we're in a staring contest.
One more
We
time.
missed some of it.
Oh, no. I think the screen went. No, the white one, the custom you have,
Yeah.
is that like pretty much the main tracking guitar, like on the last couple Sanhedrin records, or
It definitely was on the first couple. The last record, I went nuts. I chose 4 guitars that I was going to use for rhythm tracking, but I only did double tracking, like a left and a right.
Mhm.
But when I demoed the record, I recorded verses and choruses of each song with every guitar and blended, and it was just a shootout.
nice.
So that guitar is on every record, but on this last record, it's one of 4 that are pretty evenly distributed. It was that one, the Gold Top, the 59 reissue, and the Rhodes.
Right, right.
Hmm.
And that's going to be the new record that we will
The new
see.
record coming out hopefully in March.
Oh,
Oh,
nice.
nice.
That's what we're working on. So it's in the mix
Awesome.
phase right now. It's sounding amazing. Like it's just
Yeah.
like we changed engineers for this record. We've been using the same guy as the last 3, and we've always been happy with our records, but this one we just found a different thing that's sort of stepping up some of the fidelity and aggression of our sound to make it just, it's going to be punchier.
Right.
Yeah.
It's still going to be organic and stuff, but just like, but part of that too is like from the last record to this record, I acquired some real cool gear, so I used it. I got the
Yeah.
cool guitars, and then I got the Friedman, which was a big revelation in terms of having something to get a great aggressive guitar sound with. So
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, that's maybe one day I'll have a Friedman. We'll see.
I think you like it. Come up here sometime. Try mine out. I got
Yeah.
room. You, the wife, the kid. I got room for
You
everybody.
can bring your Friedman down to my house so we could just we could write an album in 4 days,
We
and
should.
Oh, look at
You know?
this.
You heard it
I'm
here
down.
first.
do
Yeah.
it.
A new
Yeah.
band coming out.
New band.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gee,
Jeremy's my speed with music, that's for sure,
Yeah,
so.
I don't think it would be hard to find common ground and just throw
Yeah.
up shit at the wall and be like, okay, we're done. I kind of like doing stuff like that because,
Yeah.
in our bands, like I'm not sure what your creative process is in Immolation, but in Black Anvil and then as well as in Sanhedrin, as basic as Sanhedrin stuff can be sonically and stuff, there's a lot of just deliberating and decision making and like kind of just discussing stuff for way longer than I often want to just to get
Yeah,
a
yeah.
certain 15 seconds of music to happen where
right.
it's kind of like
Yeah.
there's 2 things I want. I want a band where we just throw shit up at the wall and be like, okay, that song sounds good. And I want a guitar amp setup where I just plug into a tuner pedal. It just goes straight in. I always get
Yeah.
jealous of people like Alex. He doesn't have a pedal board. And I'm
I'm
like,
right there with you, bro. Everything you just said.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you already you get to play pretty much right into your amp most of the time I've seen you.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it just depends on what band we're
Yeah.
talking about, what the process is,
Right.
obviously Immolation, it's a totally different deal because it's basically, for my other stuff, it is a collaboration, and there's other, some of my other bands where it's just basically all me,
Yeah.
doing the writing.
Yeah, different
but,
situations bring out different parts of your creativity too.
But I do like when you're working with a group of people, musicians that are all working off each other. There's nothing beats that, and that's to me is like super exciting because you could be the guy that writes everything, but then there's this one person that just changes one little thing and it just makes it better,
Yeah.
and so there's something, there's many different processes, I guess, of writing and
Yeah,
but
I
I
mean,
love just like plugging into the amp. Like I just want to plug in and it's I don't want to sit there and fiddle with bullshit all day long. And that's what I like about amps too. Like the simpler the better.
oh
Right.
yeah,
you know?
sounds good. It is good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Don't fuck with it.
I'm definitely vibing on simple amps, even though the ones I use live are less simple because I need channel switching and effects loops for that stuff. But when I'm at home, like this Reeves behind me, there it is.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
just like preamp gain, bass, middle, treble, output, and a low.
From
and
what
a
I
high.
remember, you got quite the pedal board. Like what's kind of, I don't know if you want to get into something like that. So what's pretty much
Oh,
like the your
I
pedal board
have it.
look like?
I could throw it up.
Sure.
I just expanded.
I like that. I just expanded. Why do you all always look like you're looking at the camera and I look like I have a wayward eye? I
don't
cannot
know.
figure out where the hell to put this.
Maybe you have a wayward eye, Roger.
I could.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was down in Kingston rehearsing with Sanhedrin, and this guy who ran the place was like, I got these pedal board trays if you want one. And I was like, well, I've actually been wanting to add a couple devices to my setup, and I didn't have room for them on the one I use. So now I got this guy.
Okay. Nice.
So I'll hold it like a boombox here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're going Jerry Cantrell, Crybaby, tuner,
Nice.
Wampler, compressor, and then out of that into EVH Phase 90, flanger, then into the Nobles Overdrive. Do you guys know that one?
No, I haven't heard of
No.
that one.
It looks like a tube screamer. It's not. So
Huh.
it's like a full range overdrive in the sense that it doesn't cut your low end like a tube screamer does.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a lot of like Nashville dudes use them to like just thicken up the single coil stuff. But that's one I added because I needed like a low gain sound for some of our new stuff.
Right.
Mhm.
And I got the MXR Sugar Drive going into the Friedman distortion pedal.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I remember you telling me that Friedman
And the
pedal.
chorus and the delay. But the Friedman is there for when I'm not using my stuff. Because like I like to plug directly into my amp, but sometimes you show up to a festival and you don't know what you're dealing with.
Oh yeah.
You get a amp that hasn't been serviced in way too long and everything you do sounds like butt. So
Yeah.
that just could go into a clean channel. I get my sound as best I can. And then I
Yeah.
can remove that and then change 2 wires and then use an effects loop instead of going out of that for the last 2 pedals in the chain. The chorus and the delay, I like to run post distortion.
Right. Wow, that was very organized too.
Yeah, well, that's some OCD stuff there. Yeah, I can't bear to look at. I've seen some pedal boards where I'm like, it makes me nervous for the guitar player that something's going to go wrong.
Right.
Yeah, I like to just have stuff that's like everything is. I also anticipate problems because
Right.
if you do that, well, everything on there, like if I have to take something out of the chain real quick, I can do so easily. And
Right.
and then underneath the thing, I mounted one of those True Tone power brick things. So
Nice.
yeah, so that's what I'm running these days mostly. But then I got there's like a shelf behind me back here. It's got a bunch of stuff I always pull out and play with. And then I got all the guitar amps back here, and
Nice.
this is my
Nice.
studio that I'm in. It's like
Right.
I have it set up where I just walk in and I want to play guitar. So,
Right. You do teaching also, right?
yeah, it's a little slow at the moment, but yeah, I definitely do. I enjoy it actually. It kind of keeps me in touch with my inner, beginner guitarist, where
Right.
because sometimes the business stuff just sort of like bogs my inspiration down a little bit, where it's like, why am I learning how to run Google ad analytics right now? Like I'm supposed to be writing riffs, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like teaching people
Good
how to play keeps my spark going because their spark kind of feeds me. Kind of like if you're playing a show and the audience is giving it to you good, then it makes you give it more.
Right.
So
Right.
I do enjoy it, yeah.
Do you read music?
No, I read tab and I teach with tab and like charts, like scale chart, like the guitar grimoire style charts or
Uh-huh.
chord charts and stuff like that. I
Right.
most guitar players, I'm more of a pattern thinker than like a
Mhm.
whole half 1 2 3 4 as the years go by I'm starting to understand that stuff better, but
Right.
like if somebody's like, oh, you played a flat 5 there, I'm like, no, I guess I did.
Okay. Is that what it is?
It's not what I'm thinking when I'm doing it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I gave I was giving my nephew when he was staying with us earlier this year. I gave him some lessons, and it kind of brought me back a little bit to
Yeah.
when I was learning, and I just showed him like some basic stuff and a scale, and then and then I just say, hey, just mix it up, now just you could do 1 2 4 2 1 2 4 3 4
Exactly.
1 whatever, like just mix it up and get your fingers moving. And
Right.
but yeah, it kind of inspired me because I could see him kind of lighting up, and like as he was starting to get it, like, oh my god, I can do this, like I
Yep.
think I taught him something simple like
Yeah, I had a
Black Sabbath, Electric Funeral, or
youth student last year for about a year where I was teaching him the cowboy chords and the basic kind of beginner stuff you do.
Mhm.
And then, like, I would say a couple months into it, he was picking it up pretty well. So I was like, what are some songs you want to learn? And they named me some songs and they had those chords in them. I'm like, well, you can already play those. And he was like, what? No, I can't. I was like, you know the G chord? Yeah. Okay. You know the C chord? Yeah. Okay. Now you can play that song. And he's like,
Yeah,
he starts playing. He's like, holy crap.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
Yeah.
And then like that gets you excited because you're like remembering what that was like for you. I mean, I still have those moments,
yeah.
I I seek
There's
them.
nothing that compares to that, especially when you first, start learning the instrument. Because I remember, I think the first song I learned was Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath. Then I learned
Oh, cool.
Kiss, Cold Gin, I think was the other one, and Def Leppard, Wasted. They were like 3
Oh,
of
that's
the
a riff.
guitar
If I
stuff
learned that
that I
when I was
learned.
a kid, I would have never
But I,
stopped.
what's that?
If I learned Wasted when I was young, I would have never stopped playing.
Yeah, I mean,
So good.
but it was just, like, oh my God, I'm doing this. Like, this
Yeah,
is
well,
the
you're
magic.
cracking the code. That's what I tell them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
it scales. It's how I kind of explain it, especially because that's really what you're doing.
Right.
But yeah, like I remember I learned my brother was sort of trying to learn how to play guitar. It never really took with him, my older brother, but he
Mhm.
taught me how to read tab. And we had guitar magazines in the house. And there was the tab for Mother by Danzig.
Right.
I was like, and that's the same 3 chords, the whole song. And that was a revelation too. It was just
yeah,
like those 3 chords, and then the chorus is just those 3 chords backwards. And I was like, wait, this dude wrote this song that everybody, including me, loves, and this is all it is. And I was like, I'm
Yeah.
going to start writing songs.
Yeah.
yeah,
Just learned how to play my first song. I'm going to write songs.
yeah,
know,
yeah.
I've gone back. So when I was in junior high, I played in a band orchestra in school and could read music. And I could read music with guitar when I was young,
Oh, wow.
but I forgot.
It's like a
And
language, right?
yes, I never did it again. And and I now being older, you always try to keep your mind like learn new things and all that kind of stuff. So I've gone back and started doing lessons again to read music,
Okay,
which
yeah,
is number one, very, very humbling
yeah.
because it well, it's hard to play, the songs, Tom Dooley and all the goofy little songs you have to play in those books to learn the fingering again. But learning as an adult, oh my god, it is like it seemed like it was super easy when I was a kid. Like, I mean, we're playing in an orchestra, playing all kinds of stuff, and they just come in and on a Monday morning and give you your music, and you could just it's like reading a book. I mean, you would just
It
play it.
is.
And
It's
now
Yeah.
it's like so far out of reach at my age.
it's incredible, like how the younger version of a brain, despite its lack of development in so many ways, just
Right.
has thirst and curiosity.
Right.
It's like um if I think back of like from age 13 to 16, the amount of information I went from starting at zero to
Right.
starting a band and playing shows,
Right.
a lot.
Yeah.
Right.
It didn't even seem like it was hard, or it was work, I guess, but it didn't seem like that's what I was doing. I was just like
Right.
a curious tunnel vision person. And I feel like teaching kind of takes me back to that in a way where I also have to set the example of like, well, this is how you practice because this
Right.
is I know because this is how I practice and this is what works.
Right.
It's one of many things that keeps you humble as a guitar player. I mean, playing
Right.
alone does, because no matter how good you are, there's going to be Al Di Meola and people like that out
Right.
there that just mop the floor.
Yeah.
with their-
It's funny. We started talking about this and our viewers dropped down to one. We must have gotten boring. More boring.
It's
Sorry.
like some of the guitar, like you were saying, but these other guitar players out there today, it's just like, and
Yeah.
it's just like, all right, it's great. For me, like, for instance, like, Jeremy's guitar playing is kind of guitar playing I like, something tasteful,
Yeah.
there's melody there, there's those solos that tell a story, and that's kind of playing that I like. And I was
Right.
never really, I went through the brief moment in the 80s where like it was all like, the shred guitar
Sure,
player.
yeah.
And I got into that thing, but most of that stuff, it just, was more about what grabbed me was songwriting,
Right.
and
Yeah, even the flashiest stuff, like for example, to bring up Al Di Meola, if we really want to bore the metalheads here. Uh, so he's super fast and super, flurry, but he also mixes this groove and this swagger in his songwriting. And then he just pulls out those runs during moments where like they're supposed to be.
Right.
Versus going
Yeah.
like it's an assault. It's more just like we're playing this funky beat. We got this Latin rhythm going on, and then
Mhm.
all of a sudden, right at that moment where it's pinnacling, it's like boom, and then it's like
yeah.
I like
Well,
that.
even Ingve, like Ingve, especially those early records, of course, there's the whole shred factor of everything
yeah.
he does, but a lot of feel in
Mhm.
there, and he knows when to kind of tame it down a
Well,
bit, and
Yngwie,
but he's Ingve too. He can get away with
Who is it? Who is
what
this
he
guy
does.
you speak of?
yeah.
Who is-
Roger hates Ingve, by the way.
I don't hate him. I don't like him.
One
No,
thing
I
he-
may actually hate him. I may hate him. And David Coverdale and Whitesnake.
really,
Yeah.
I could see
I
that.
actually may hate all like that. I know
That's-
David Coverdale is Whitesnake, but
They are high on their own supply. That's for sure.
yeah. Yeah.
Well, yeah,
Well, and I don't listen to Whitesnake or David Coverdale, but this is from like when I was a kid. I hated them, and if my wife listens to that Sirius channel, and if anything comes on with him, I will immediately turn it and get yelled at.
Huh. Well,
Well, it's like
I'm sorry. Talk
there's
about
two,
Ingve. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm learning a lot.
there's two bands my wife can't tolerate and that I will play, and I can't play it around her. That's Voivod and the Moody Blues. Those two bands we
Oh,
play
My
around her.
wife loves Voivod.
wow.
Yeah,
I don't know about
it's
the Moody Blues though.
Voivod is a band either you love them or hate them. Some people
Yeah.
just don't get it, you know.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, when you listen to them, it's like the kind of music where you're like, I get why people don't get this.
Yeah. Well, and Jeremy, you don't like Moody Blues?
I just don't. Well, the Moody Blues that I've heard is just kind of mellow, right?
Yeah,
So
most of it
No,
is,
some
yeah.
of it's kind of psychedelic.
I like stuff that's a little like anxious and urgent, generally speaking.
Yeah, yeah.
So like even stuff that it doesn't necessarily have to be super hard or heavy,
Right.
but I like stuff that's got a little bit of tension in the sound generally.
Right.
So when stuff is like airy and breathy and soft, I kind of have a tendency to go a different way.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
For you, it's like there's moments of that, but you still need that, that hard
Yeah,
head
I don't
stuff.
know what it is. Like that's my only. It's like there's a lot of music that falls under that category, luckily. But I mean, it's why I never got like the Grateful Dead gene, where like
Yeah.
it's like, oh
And
yeah,
I
they're
don't get
shredded.
it.
It's like, well, they are, but they sound like they're about to fall asleep too. You know?
Yeah.
It,
I never
it
did
just
get it.
like country jam band. I don't know. Just I don't know. Does nothing for me. Like I could recognize if a band. I think okay, not my cup of tea, but they're a good band.
Sincerity comes
And
across no matter what. Yeah.
I just don't get it.
Yeah, I think I could kind of appreciate it, but I don't like it, and I don't get it.
Yeah. And then
So
people are like,
speaking
you got
clean
no
tones.
drugs, no drugs. What's that?
Speaking of like you were saying about you were talking about like quiet music and then you need a little hard edge stuff. And
Yeah.
I think I heard you say earlier about the new Sanhedrin stuff. There's some different tones going on there. You said
Oh yeah. Well, basically, there are moments where I have more of like the low gain versus the full on, assault of, early '80s Marshall tone.
yeah.
Despite never using a Marshall in that band once, at least in the recording studio.
Mhm.
It's pretty dynamic. Like we wrote the first two songs we wrote were like complete opposites of one another, and we're like, okay, let's make a record that can be this and that. One of them is like super heavy metal with like beat down riffs, like almost hardcore riffs.
Mhm.
And then the other one could probably be like it has moments that could appear on a Bryan Adams record.
Hmm.
Cool, man.
But like it's still us. But like we're like, if we can make these two songs, everything we write from now on has to fit somewhere between this song and that song. So it's got a pretty wide breadth. There are songs that are definitely like straightforward heavy metal songs, but then there are other songs where you would call it a rock song, I guess, a hard rock.
Yeah.
Because
Well, I hear that in you guys. There's a lot of definitely 70s kind of hard rock vibe, and then you have like the kind of doomy element too in some aspects.
and there's one of those songs too.
Yeah, and that's awesome because that's what I like. I like diversity in bands.
Mhm.
Bands that are
As soon
constantly.
as I am able to share it with you, I will.
Yeah, cool.
I'm really happy with how it's turning out sonically.
It's good.
We went to a pretty fancy studio and used a lot of really fancy mics and mic pre's and stuff, and we're pretty psyched. It worked out as well as we hoped, because sometimes you do that kind of thing and it could be a disaster.
Right.
Just because
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
using Neve mic pre's doesn't mean you're gonna get the sound you thought you were. Takes
Yeah.
more than that, I guess, but we
Right.
got lucky. So
Nice.
yeah.
So, what did you all? I'll bring up the controversial thing. I
Uh-oh.
think it'll be controversial.
Let's
The opening of the Olympics with Gojira.
Oh, I thought it was cool.
Did
Yeah,
you really? I did too.
I didn't
I didn't.
watch it.
I haven't even seen it, but I think it's cool that there was a. I know there's all guys, go Jira, blah, 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 whatever. Hey man, it's cool. Heavy metal bands playing the Olympics, man.
Well,
You know,
for
you like
one,
them or not?
I don't own a Gojira record, but I recognize them as a sincere band who believes in what they do,
Yeah.
and they're good at what they do. And frankly, I didn't watch the open. I haven't watched anything about the Olympics. Honestly, I like football and hockey more. But
Right.
well, I saw the footage of the Gojira presentation,
Yeah.
and it was
Mhm.
wild. It was visually like if you play in a band and you see that and you say, if you don't say to yourself, how effing cool would that be to be those guys right now?
Yeah.
Then you're a liar.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was
And, well,
so
and
how they did it.
the first thing you know, they're not afraid of heights because they were
Yeah,
up in the
I
air,
know.
man.
The second thing you know is they're strapped.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
I would have been too. I would have been like, all right, you're gonna get me out there like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alex, you should watch it. It's really cool. They're like on this like old Parisian. I don't remember what the
It was
building
a
was.
prison, right? An
Yeah,
old
I think
prison.
it was it had some ties to the French Revolution, but they are
Right.
on these balconies, like separate from one another. You just watch it. It's
Yeah.
cool. It's like when Prince played the halftime show at the Super Bowl, and you're like, well, I don't know that anyone will top that. So whatever band they get for 4 years from now for the Olympics, I mean,
Yeah.
Beyonce wouldn't have done something this cool, I don't think.
It'll be
Yeah.
Cannibal Corpse. They're gonna do them.
Yeah.
They should play the Super Bowl, frankly.
Right. Right.
Yeah, there you go.
They
I-
played
I
Red
would-
Rocks. They're on their way.
Yeah.
With I'm sorry.
He said they're on their way.
They
Oh.
played Red Rocks, so they're on their
Yeah.
way.
Yes, I know. I know.
That was
It's
awesome.
like it's crazy, man. It's you know, to think of death metal sold out show at Red
Yeah.
Rocks. I mean,
I bet you
wow.
nobody's more surprised than they are. You know,
Right.
Yeah.
like
Oh, I'm
oh,
proud of you. That's awesome, man.
Well,
It's good.
I'm just always curious to see how people take. I mean, you probably don't get any more. I mean, for lack of better terms, mainstream than the Olympics. I didn't watch it live. I just saw recordings of it.
yeah.
I thought it was pretty interesting. I was like, huh, I wonder how the people in that genre of music are taking this. Are
Yeah.
they well receiving it, or is it, like, oh my God, what are they doing?
Unfortunately, you're just always going to have the too cool for school crowd.
Right.
I
Right.
kind of saw it as like they're a sincere enough band that if that's the band that's a gateway to somebody who's like 8 years old sitting on their couch anywhere in the world,
Yep.
sitting with their parents watching the opening ceremonies and goes, what is heavy metal? That's heavy metal. Tell me
Yeah.
more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then we've converted many, you know.
Right. Right.
I mean, if
Yeah.
you think about the guys that inspired us, you know, to pick up the instrument, you know, you hear like a common thread in where they're asked, oh, you know, what was the moment that you decided you wanted to play rock and roll? And they're like the Beatles on Ed Sullivan, you know, like,
Yeah. Well, that's the
Ian,
big thing of rock music.
Yeah.
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 Not rock and roll, but like rock music as we know it today. Every
Right.
Yeah.
every band of a whole for the next 10 years that formed was like, why'd you start a band? Beatles on Ed
Right.
Sullivan changed my life.
Right.
This could be that sort of like a micro version of that for who knows how many kids. And it's a good what they're playing guitars. They're
Yeah.
not playing pads on a computer.
Right.
Mhm.
Nothing
Right.
wrong with that per se. Good music can be made in many ways, but like,
Sure.
you know, guitar is just so cool. I think everybody should do it.
Yeah. Right. Right. Yeah. And I mean, talk about that. I mean, if you're a young kid watching that, you were watching the opening of the Olympics, and I mean, not only them, out on the balconies of that building, but I mean the flame pots going off like
Yeah.
crossways across
Oh,
the building.
just-
That was insane.
Just presenting people who wouldn't otherwise see it with what levels of glory and power are possible with this kind of music
Yeah.
that maybe differ from other things you could do artistically.
Yeah. Well
Just
put.
Yeah.
Like, you know, when I was a kid and I saw Metallica at Moscow in front of like 1 million people going crazy on TV, or you know, footage of old Kiss concerts with the pyro and the blood and all that stuff. And you're just like, it just makes you think like of possibilities.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Of course, and then when you find, years later, you're the guy on stage, like you were talking about earlier, like that short period of 13 to 16 with, like, but I think it's the will, if you have the will to
Right.
do something, you're hungry
yeah,
enough, you may not see the results right away, but over time it's
probably
like,
not.
but there's the saying, take care of the little things and the big things will take care of themselves,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, I read a article with it was like an interview with Tony Hawk years ago. At a time in my life when I needed to hear the words, it was just like never sacrifice long-term goals for short-term gains. And like
Yeah.
while you're doing that, it's going to seem like it's a slow plod, but then there's going to be these moments where you're like, "Oh shit, it worked."
Yeah. True.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Wow.
Yeah. We had
So,
Matt Mallory just pop in.
oh, okay. Hey,
Yep.
Matt, what's up, buddy? Good, man. Matt, we got to get you on the show. Matt is a fellow guitar nerd. I actually was on his podcast a few
Nice.
weeks back.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Everybody watching, check out Matt's podcast as well. But yeah, Matt, we'd love to have you on, man.
Yeah.
I highly recommend it.
Yeah. I met Matt in Europe. He was on tour with Possessed with his
Okay.
band, and also he was guitar teching for Possessed as well. And
Nice.
he was nice enough to help out Ross, who I think he left the straps back at the last gig or whatever it was, and
In Yonkers.
directions. Yes, man, definitely, Matt. Yeah, we got to maybe next episode. We got to get you on, man. That'd be great.
Yeah. Yeah.
But Jeremy, what do you got coming up next? Anything? Any shows coming up? Or
Well, as a matter of fact, I do. At the end of August, we Sanhedrin heads out to the Midwest. We're playing some shows. We're playing this festival called Blades of Steel in Madison, Wisconsin.
oh, okay,
But we're going to do some shows to and fro. So we're playing Indianapolis at Black Circle. We're playing Chicago. We're playing Reggie's in Chicago.
cool, man.
Playing in Detroit, and we're playing in Pittsburgh. And then in October, we're playing a show in New York with Cirith Ungol, one of their final shows, their last show
Oh,
ever.
wow. Okay.
At
Nice.
the end, like October 28th, that is. And
Mhm.
then we're playing with them in Boston as well. I think that date is getting rescheduled currently from where it was originally scheduled. Because when St. Vitus closed, those dates had to get moved around because it was originally going to be one date and now it's something else. But that's going to be at the Middle East. I think November 1st is the rescheduled date for that.
Boston.
And after that, not much else until just going to work on getting the record out, getting that publicity machine churning
Yeah,
for
yeah.
the new year, and then hopefully a March release. And we're currently working on a booking in April and May European tour to coincide with that with some cool bands.
Nice.
And from there, we'll just see where the wind blows us,
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I
Seems like
can't
there's
wait.
a lot going on in Europe, right?
For heavy metal, it's a pretty good place to be.
Yeah.
It's our brand of heavy metal in particular does a lot better there than here. There are diehards over here. I think we play some cool, like kind of small regional festivals, like this one in Wisconsin we're going to do, and those are a lot of fun. When we go to Europe, we just have we can headline clubs in Europe and do pretty well, whereas in the States we're not there. But
Yeah.
the people that come into the shows in the States are diehards, and it's awesome. But it's just
Right.
not. It's not as rabid of a scene, but it's just a different. It's a different vibe. That's all.
Right. Right.
I could definitely see, especially like in places like Germany. And stuff
Oh
like
yeah.
that, really getting into you guys. You know.
Yeah, I mean that's the first place that really embraced us. But now on this upcoming tour we're planning, we're finally branching out our territory in Europe. So it looks like we're going to hit France and Spain for the first time, maybe some
Oh,
other
nice.
spots. So we've always been told that those places are difficult in terms of finances and transportation, and it has to be worth it or whatever. But I think if you do stuff long enough, the temperatures of the culture change in places too. So maybe 10 years ago when they were telling us that stuff, that was true. Things are different there now, like scenes
What-
develop.
But what does that mean?
Well, say 10 years ago, the type of music that we play just wasn't as popular as it is now in those
Okay.
regions. But also logistically, to do like Germany, Belgium, Netherlands, Austria, Switzerland is like this small circle. To
Right.
branch out to like Italy, France, Spain, Portugal,
Okay.
you have longer drives. You have in
Sure.
France, you have to pay tolls like every 40 feet.
Oh,
And like so the expenses are different, the drives are different. And if you're playing territories where you don't draw as well, then you're not getting paid as well. So it becomes a financial decision too. So
right. Right.
but it seems like we've got some people in those areas that are interested in having us, and we are very interested in going there.
Yeah.
Yeah, Spain is a really every time I've played, there's always been really good shows. It's been a while since I played Spain. Like you said, it's usually like one of those places. Sometimes it's just not doesn't work out with.
Yeah, I mean, if you geographically, it's pretty out of the way, and so
Yeah.
like,
Yeah,
from
I think I'm playing there next though. I think I have to look, but I hope we are because it's been a while.
what is,
You know?
what's your next situation? When do you go? Where are you going?
When do I go? September. We go out with Municipal Waste and Cannibal
Oh, that's
Corpse.
right.
And,
That'll be okay, huh?
that'll be really good. Of course, you know.
Oh yeah,
You can go anywhere with Cannibal Corpse and shows
yeah. I
shows
know.
them with, you know that, Jeremy. We played in some like places we were just like, and it's just insane, you know. Like,
Yeah.
no matter what part of the states we played, the shows are nuts every
It was
night.
wild.
You know?
Right.
It's like observing a phenomenon,
Yeah,
in a way. And then also being like, it's wild to live in an era of human history where this can happen. Like, try explaining death metal to like somebody like even 40 years ago,
Yeah.
oh yeah.
years ago.
And then you have Gojira on, you know.
I know.
And but you know,
And
opening
people
the
are gonna
Olympics.
be mad that that's mainstream, and it's just like, what's your problem? Are you afraid of people being successful? It's like strange.
Yeah.
Well, it seems
Yeah.
like it moves the whole that whole genre of music forward, right?
Exactly.
But maybe some don't want to. And I remember, going through high school, I hung out with a lot of people that were heavily into the punk music scene in the DC area. They were the same way.
Yep.
Didn't want it to be mainstream. It had to be underground, Poser, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's
think that-
weird.
Kind of that way. They're still, it's maybe not as bad as it used to be, but they're still stuck in like, you belong to this and you belong to this group of,
Well, I
honor or
understand.
whatever. Europe is more open-minded, like, like Jeremy was saying, it's like, or you play a festival where I always like to bring up the example of like, Hellfest or whatever.
Mhm.
You know,
Right.
it's like here's Immolation, Leonard Skinner, Kiss,
Right.
Corpse, you know what I mean? Queens of the Stone Age, like, you know, Foo Fighters, you know, Marduk, you know,
Yeah.
It's like, you
Yeah,
know,
there's just a weird sense of like it's almost like a nonconformist conformity. Like punk,
That would be a good band name.
yeah, it would. Like punk's a great example. Like in the late 70s when punk's coming out, it's all about pushing boundaries and expanding the idea of what music can be. And
Right.
then eventually it becomes a uniform, and if you stray from it, there becomes like an orthodoxy to it.
Yeah.
yeah,
You know, there are forms of metal that are like that too, and
Right.
it is what it is. But also on the other side of that, like if you love a band and you followed them from the day they were playing to 5 people, and then they become bigger and bigger, and now a bunch of people that you don't identify with as people culturally are also claiming them as theirs. I see how that could be kind of like a thing.
oh, that
Just-
happened with Metallica for me. It was
Oh
just
yeah,
like, you know, from day one, and you know, how they became as big as, you know, they became, and it's, you know, and it's just funny, like some of these guys like a few years before that were like, oh, that's garbage. All of a sudden, like the Black Album comes out and they're just like, oh, this is amazing, you know. And it's just like, where were you 6 years ago?
Right.
yeah,
You know?
that's what I mean. So like that I get, but at the same time, if there's going to be a band that flies the flag for heavy metal, Metallica sure was like the right one to do it. You know,
Oh yeah,
Right.
absolutely. And I'm still a fan, so I don't
Same.
care.
Yeah.
Metallica's a band that, like, when they put out a new record, I will listen to it every time. There are other bands
Yeah.
Me too.
that, like, when they put out a new record, the bands that I was way into years ago, like, couldn't wait for their new record to come out. Whereas they put one out now, I'm kind of like, you know, I'm just not as interested. But there's something about them and a couple other bands like Iron Maiden. Iron Maiden puts out
Yeah.
a new record. I'm in it. Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah. Or
Well, and
Motorhead.
I
If
guess
Motorhead was still around, you know, I was always looking forward to the next Motorhead record, or Priest too. You know, like
yeah.
so,
I guess I can appreciate people that are like so into one genre of music, like so passionate about it because I mean Alex will tell you I'm a musical mutt. I listen to everything.
Right.
It could be everything from death metal to well more probably prog and alternative, but I can listen to rap. So
Yeah.
I listen to oldies. I listen to pretty much everything. I'm all over the map. If it's good, I listen to it.
Yeah, it's tough because
yeah.
like
Just
being metal guys, like we're always getting asked, like, "What are you listening to these days? What up and coming this or that are you listening to?" And I'm just always like, I don't know, Rainbow, and or like I'll name some stuff that like I think they're expecting me to turn them on to some new band they haven't heard of yet, and I'm just sort of like, between how much time I'm spending making my own music, combined with like just not always wanting to listen to heavy metal when you're immersed in it for so many years,
Right.
that I'm like giving disappointing answers.
What,
yeah.
what would be something that you listen to that would surprise us? What probably wouldn't surprise Alex. Surprise the 3 people watching and me.
Sunny Day
All
Real
3 of us. All 4 of us.
I like Sunny Day Real Estate a lot. Husker Du,
Yeah, that's what they're-
early Jimmy Eat World records, even.
Really?
The first
Cool.
couple Bryan Adams records I vibed hard on for a bit. Pat Benatar.
Yeah.
Ah,
Yeah. I got
down
guilty.
with Pat.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
Neil Giraldo's
Yeah.
sick.
Yeah.
It's funny. I don't know if this is for you, Jeremy. Like when people ask you doing interviews, and my response is always the same. And they're like, "So what is your guilty pleasure?" And I'm like, "Nothing." I don't feel
Yeah,
guilty. I listen to it, you know. It's like, what's your guilty pleasure?
Well, yeah, that gets back to the orthodoxy stuff where it's like, what do you listen to? And it's like I'm supposed to, because I play heavy metal and stuff, say like, oh, there's this brutal new band that you've never heard of. They got a demo tape out and they're gonna be awesome. And sometimes that's true. Like it just depends on where you find me. But then like other times I'm just like, I don't know. I really like Rush Hold Your Fire this week,
Yeah.
So
I mean,
Well,
if you're a music lover, there's so much still to discover. Like even recently, I I've been listening to some like just randomly finding some weird old jazz stuff and
yeah.
The 50s or whatever that I've been checking out. And you just hear something and the inspiration doesn't matter what it is. I mean, you could play the heaviest shit ever, and be
Right.
inspired by, I don't know, a Neil Young song or something.
Well, I think like if you only listen to a certain sound or style and you're a creative person, you're gonna kind of run out of ideas.
Yeah.
So I might just listen to stuff like, for example, living in New York City for so many years, I would hear like salsa music and reggaeton just coming out of like Honda Civics driving down my street and
Right.
just blasting it. But it had like this kind of rhythmic quality that I know has subconsciously seeped into like riff writing, and in the band's pocket in general. Every once in a while, you'll just get like a kind of swaggery moment that
Yeah.
doesn't come from heavy metal, doesn't come from hardcore or punk. It's like it's coming from funk or some other thing, because
Right.
we all listen to like I had a personal rule on the last Sanhedrin tour we did in the US like last summer, where because the driver DJs. So if I was driving, I was like, whatever I put on, it was just not going to be heavy metal, because we get to the venue, it's 4 o'clock. What's the guy playing on the sound system? Heavy metal.
Yeah.
We're listening to it all night, and it's awesome. It's a heavy metal party. But when the heavy
Yeah.
metal party's over, it's I like to throw something else on just to kind of change the palette a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think Alex, we've asked quite a few people either during the recording of the podcast or sometimes after while we're BSing, and it has blown me away every time. Like absolutely surprised how mellow whatever the band or the song was that they were listening to. Like whatever they said, I was like, God, I never would have thought that.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're 16, because I have a 16-year-old, well, I think she's 17 or 18 now, but I have this guitar student that like she's just into the most brutal shit. She listens to like Midnight and Blasphemy and like just wants to play war metal, and it's awesome because it like I need that in my life. I need a 16-year-old to call me a poser every once in a while.
Yeah.
And she does. But like, she just sort of, that's her vibe right now. And when I was 16, that was my vibe. It's just like, go, 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 go. But as you grow as a musician, you're just looking for new things to take and add to like what you're trying to create. And you'll take it from wherever. So again, like Roger, you said you listen to rap. I like the rap group Onyx is like one of my favorite artists across all genres.
Right.
Not because I'm a huge rap fan, but there's something about them that I take from. It's the attitude, it's the rhythm, it's like the nastiness, and it's just something that grabs you viscerally. And it doesn't matter that like I don't have a huge rap record collection. I have all their shit.
Yeah.
Because I love it. And it's like whatever you can take to inspire you. It's just like
It's just like in the 80s when I got into hardcore, a lot of my friends were more like the hard rock, heavy metal guys. They didn't get, hardcore, but it's the attitude, that was the main ingredient of that music that I related to, and that was inspiring, and they wanted something a little bit more musical, but I get it. You like what you like or whatever, but it's the attitude in the music, it's the
Right.
feeling,
Right.
it's just like you listen to like the early, first Napalm Death record or whatever. It's just like, okay, this is a bunch of noise or whatever, but no,
Yeah.
it's
Right.
this. It's just, you don't get it, or
Right.
whatever. But
That's the other side of the coin is like you put on a death metal record for a civilian and
Yeah.
they're just like, what the hell's going on here? But if you get it, you get it. And
Yeah.
then that's how the community gets built because you're like, oh,
Right.
yes, I don't even know why I get it or what I get about this, but you get it too. So it's like a way to communicate and relate to somebody in a way
Yeah.
that it goes well beyond like the ability to explain how you feel about something.
Well, and I
Yeah.
think some of it is geographical too. And we were talking about this on the phone the other day, Alex. Like I grew up in the DC area and it was just a melting pot. So it
Yep.
was nothing to be exposed to a lot of reggae. It's some DC we have a genre of music called DC go-go. So like Rare Essence, Trouble Funk, bands like that or Dead Kennedys. So it just kind of like you were exposed to a lot of shit.
Yeah.
So
And I think, I mean, I grew up in a rural area where I heard a lot of like country music and
yeah,
stuff like that. And then I moved to New York City where you hear none of that, but you hear all this other stuff.
yeah,
And you just sort of like, yeah, you just kind of absorb stuff even subconsciously. Like I was saying about like
Yeah.
a lot of
Yeah,
the
one way or another, it
that
rubs
you
off
just
on you.
hear.
you know?
You walk into a deli somewhere and you're just hearing like, you just can't help but like do this. And you're like, you don't know what the artist name is. You'll never hear that song for as long as you live, unless you go back
Yeah.
there next week. But you just like absorb it,
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Cool. We just dragged it to nothing to do with guitars.
Yeah.
So I don't know if there's anybody watching, but if there's anybody watching, if you got any questions before we
Both of you.
yeah. All two of you.
Anybody want to say anything before we sign off? I'm sure Cody's probably still hanging in there. Cody's a diehard.
Nice.
He's our number one watcher.
He's our number
Viewer.
one watcher and number one death metal guy. And here a lot. He was in here picking up his guitar the other day. Super
Cool.
happy. Both of them actually. He had two.
I got a question for Jeremy. What's you have like a bucket list guitar? Because we asked our last guest, and he didn't really answer the question. But is there do you have any like a bucket list guitar that you're like, I have to have that guitar? I don't have it right now. I need this. It's a necessity.
I'm kind of at a point where I don't. And
That's not a bad place.
and I can't even believe it. I think once I got the gold top with the P90s, I was like, okay, I have the Hot Rod Les Pauls, I have the 59 reissue, and I have that. Okay, I have a Strat, I have a Tele. I'm at a point where like if I can't picture recording with something, I don't think I need it. Now that said,
You got that Rhodes, and that inspired you.
Yeah, exactly. So, yes, please.
Sir. Great stuff.
So one thing I think would be really fun to have would be some kind of Gretsch. Because it's just a sound. It's a cool ass.
One of mine too. Yeah.
But like honestly, like I kind of got out of, since I got kind of all the guitars I need to accomplish the sounds in my brain currently, except for a Gretsch, Falcon maybe because it's white and sparkly, would be my thing. I sort of I got into amps, so now I kind of am at a point where I kind of have what I want there too, except lately I've been thinking real hard about how cool it would be to have a silver jubilee of some kind, but
nice.
Or
Wait, did you start this conversation with "I'm done"?
Yeah.
And then you named 15 things.
Well, that's how it goes, man.
You know, you brought up the Gretsch, and I'm pretty sure this was years ago. It's a long time ago. That I played this Gretsch. I think it was like a. I think the model was called like a Gretsch Nashville. I don't know if I'm onto
Oh
something.
yeah,
It was
yeah.
kind of an orangish color it had,
Yep,
and
like a single
you
cutaway.
know, yeah, this guitar, the tone, the feel, the neck was just fucking amazing.
Yeah, it's
And
one of those things where
it was
I
way too expensive at the time. You
yeah.
know,
Well, that's the thing about it is like a Gretsch would be cool as like a toy, but like $3,900 is a lot to spend on something that you're not gonna
Yeah.
mess with too much.
yeah.
Like having a Gibson Les Paul when your main thing is hard rock and heavy metal makes sense.
But a Les Paul is everything. You can do anything with a Les Paul.
It's
You
same
know,
same with amps where it's like, you could spend as much money as you want on this stuff, or you're able, I suppose, most of us. Um, but ultimately, I'm also at a point where maintenance is becoming an issue. Like, I'll have a
yeah.
guitar that's sitting in my closet for like 6 months. Like, I haven't played my Telly in like 2 years. I took it out the other day and I'm like, "Oh, the strings are kinda crusty on this." But then I remember it's got a Bigsby on it, and I'm just like, "Do you really want
Oh,
to
nice.
restring this?"
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah,
But
well,
You know,
yeah.
it's fun
you
to
know what?
play.
He has to come down to visit, Alex, and just bring your shit with you.
I'll bring it all.
We'll have a
The
guitar
U-Haul
supply
trailer.
day.
We'll do a little video of working on German guitars. You know,
Yeah. So Alex, I'll show. I talked about this one a couple times, and it just came in. I'm
Ooh, this one.
almost. I shouldn't. I
Oh.
shouldn't show it because it pissed me off today.
Uh-oh.
But this is. I talk about this guitar every once in a while. Like this is my favorite guitar.
This is
It's
yours?
a customer's guitar. No.
Oh. Oh, I want it. It's got that JT6 bridge. I know that guitar.
Yeah. This will be gigging in Fredericksburg tomorrow night, and this received a lot of 4-letter words today. It did
What
not
happened? What was wrong with
cooperate. Well, it has. You see the nut up there, the locking nut.
Yeah.
It's not a typical like a Floyd Rose locking nut. Where
I'm very I have a Charvel from the same era, same bridge, same
yeah.
nut.
So you understand. So if
You
this
need, like,
ever
a whole
happens to
toolkit.
you, what's that?
You need a whole toolkit to change one string.
Yeah. So instead of locking down the blocks to lock the strings down,
Yeah, they do this.
when you screw,
I know what
comes
happened.
up.
I know what happened. I'm gonna call it.
Go
The
ahead.
little one fell into the truss rod hole.
No.
Oh, no? Okay. That
No.
happens to
So
me
if
every
you
other
ever have this happen, and this is a customer who's actually he's become a friend, and we go to see. He plays out in the band, and we go to see them once in a while. So we went to see them at a brewery, and he comes down during the break, and he says, "Hey man, my B string, every time I do a bend, it goes flat." And I was like, you know what? I don't know what I'm gonna do now. You're on stage, dude. And he has one guitar. So he said, I need to get it to you. So he brought it in, and all day I've been messing. Well, it was hours trying to figure out what was wrong with that. And I finally tracked it down. I worked on the bridge, I worked on the saddle and all that kind of stuff. And he used to have 10s on there, and he's dropped down to 9s. And over the years, I mean, he's had it for all these years. The string, the B string, had worn a groove underneath on the bottom
where
side
it
of
compresses. Yeah.
there was a groove in there, like a deep groove, and the string was riding in there, so it wasn't locking it down. So yeah, I had to take some metal off that, level it out, and now it stays in tune wonderfully. And Alex called me in the middle of it. It wasn't pretty. I was having a
Yeah.
full meltdown like a
Well
2-year-old.
I hate those troubleshooting sessions where, like, especially when it comes to stuff like that, where it's
Right.
like, is it the neck? Is it the hardware? Is it this? Like, just trying to
Yeah.
pinpoint the cause. And for me,
Right.
if it's like a neck thing, trying
Yeah.
to just get that right adjustment.
Yeah.
and then overdoing it, and then over
Yeah.
correcting, and just
I
a
just
lot of
did that the other night.
Well,
You
I
know,
mean, the
with my
positive
car that was
side to
in
it.
Newark Airport for 2 weeks and probably some fucked up
ugh.
area. You know, the guitar is
Yeah.
just like neck was all bowed and buzzing. And then you know, I didn't tell you this, Roger, but so I'm like trying to adjust the truss rod. As I'm doing this, I drop the guitar.
Ah.
And I'm just like,
That's
so I haven't
Yeah.
seen anything. It's been fine, you know. So I haven't even
Yeah.
seen a scratch, which is
that's
surprising.
Oh, good.
you got to be effing kidding me moment.
Yes.
For everything else,
and
you know.
yeah, and I was trying to, get it right, tightening the neck, and as like I'm getting there, fucking guitar just drops. And, it was one of those. It was like 1 a.m. I don't know. Luckily, my wife didn't hear me screaming downstairs.
We need to get together and get your shit straight.
Yeah,
Get your
Well, I don't
guitar
know.
straight. Matt checked
but
out.
it's cool. Like it's good. It's good to the more you do things, the better you get at troubleshooting. Though,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I moved to a remote area, and so there are some luthiers up here. Strangely, there's like these random people that just do immaculate high end work and stuff, but not a lot of easy access to just like a guy like Roger, where you could just take it in for setups and rewires and fretwork and stuff like that.
Right.
I've basically just been like going to YouTube University and learning how to do a lot of that stuff
Yeah.
myself and acquiring the tools, because I have enough guitars here now where you just pull one out, you're ready to play, you're inspired, and then you're like, oh boy,
Yeah.
what's wrong with this? What changed? Because if you haven't played something in a few months, then it was
Right.
May the last time you played it. Now it's July and it's 80% humidity and whatever
Oh,
else.
yeah. Yeah.
So I've just taken to learning a lot of that stuff, but it's that's maybe the main reason to not have too many guitars. There is a limit
Right.
to how much you can maintain so that they're all, because I want everything to be in tip-top shape so I could just
Right.
get inspired, play the thing, and do the moment and get it out of
Right.
there.
And I've gone a different direction where I mean, and especially now since I've retired from the fire department, I'm wrenching on guitars almost all day, every day. I try to start at like my starting hours are like 10 o'clock in the morning. So in the evening, when it's time to play, it's like, oh my God, I've been messing with guitars all day long. And then the last thing I want to do is change my own strings.
Oh,
So
yeah,
I'm literally the mechanic that doesn't change his oil now.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, mine always have the worst strings, the worst setups on them. A couple of them. I mean, there's a few that I play all the time, but and then some that other people play they want to try out. But there are some that I literally never touch because you just never get a chance to.
Yeah. I started putting coated strings on my Floyd Rose equipped guitars,
Yeah,
so that
yeah,
when I open the case, because I don't play them as much, and then when I open the case for them, I want to just not hit a chord and be like, oh, this needs new strings.
yeah.
Well, there goes the next 40 minutes of my life,
Right. What kind of strings are you using?
GHS boomers.
GHS. Yeah.
But that's another example of like, I do have an artist deal with them,
Mhm.
but I would use them anyway, kind of a thing.
Oh, gotcha. Gotcha.
So I've been using them since I started, because that's what my dad was using. It just was the
Yeah.
thing. I've tried other strings that just would break sooner for me.
Yeah.
On the Gibsons, it's 10s. On my Strat, it's 10s. On any Fender scale stuff besides my Strat, it's usually 9s.
Right. Right.
But I tune standard these days for everything. So
Yeah.
when I was
I like String Joy strings a lot, but I've realized one thing about guys that play boomers, they are never going to play anything else. If they say the word boomers, that's what they're going to play.
Yeah,
And usually their dad played them.
Really? That's funny.
Yeah, that happens. I hear that a lot, and they won't. Those in bass. So I didn't when I first opened my business. There were a couple things about strings, like boomer guys are boomer guys. That's what they're going to play. They're not going to stray from that. Um, Pink Ernie balls, the pink slinkies come in. Those guys are going to play slinkies because they've played them since they were teenagers.
Right.
And then the thing that we didn't realize, my wife and I joke about it once in a while, is bass strings. When we first opened up the business, we started carrying a couple sets of bass strings, a couple different types of bass strings,
Yeah.
and nobody would ever buy them because
Every bass player plays a different bass string.
bass players play what they play, and they are always going to play those. And we didn't realize why they're so damn expensive. So, and the other thing about bass players, not all. Now, this isn't a blanket statement, but a lot. It's like, can you do a setup and save the strings? And God, there's two things that I personally hate is like save the strings, but I'll do it. It's just hard. It's a lot of extra steps. And the other is I hate the luthier sonata. So that has nothing to do with the bass string. That's just a sidebar. Two things I hate.
I gotta tell you, I don't like the luthier sonata.
Oh my God. Let me tell you what. I almost, this is a no shitter. I want to charge people extra when they use a luthier knot when it comes in, because you need to make sure your tetanus shots are updated, because you're going to bleed on the person's guitar. The other thing is it's hard to get off without scratching their damn headstock.
That's why I don't like it.
It literally does nothing.
I do one where it goes under and then the rest over. I stretch them. It's fine.
Yep.
I played hundreds of shows with no luthier's knot.
Yep.
And then when I get the guitar from the luthier and I go to do that first restring, I'm cursing. I got fucking pliers out trying to get the things off.
Yep. There should be a surcharge on. I'm going to get a T-shirt. No luthier's knots.
Yeah, just a big sign like "No Stairway to Heaven." No luthier.
Yeah, right. No luthier knot. That should be the Guitar Tech thing. And Alex has seen I'm going to have to do a video, and I didn't invent it. Somebody taught it to me the way that I restring a guitar. It's one of those things. It's so easy when you watch it. You're like, God, why didn't I learn this when I was 10?
Yeah.
I basically take the string, wrap it around the post, 2 times, depending on which string it is. And then, through the hole, tighten it up. It's there.
Boom.
None of this, hold it up, stretch it out, do this.
Yeah. I just string them all the way up, and then I cut them. And because most of my guitars are either Floyd Rose or they have the locking,
the tuners,
pegs, the Godos or whatever. And that's it, man. It's like it's pretty simple, unless it's a Floyd, which it's still a pain in the ass for me. Like any other guitar, change the string, fine, or even the Evertune's not so bad. Changing the string. The
Floyd is just getting it up to tune. And the amount of
you got to there's a couple different repetitions you got to do, and to fine tune everything, lock it again, blah, blah, blah. It's just like I love the Floyd. I love the feel of the bridge. I'm so used to that. But
I like changing my strings every 3 shows or so, or even less if it's grimy. So when I started talking to Bob, your co-guitarist, about how often he changes his strings, and he was like, I haven't changed these since the last tour, but sometime. I was like, wow, are you serious? We did a month. That first tour we did the tour with Mayhem. I saw him change strings 3 weeks into the tour for the first time.
Yeah, well,
I remember what city it was because it was so unusual. We were in Virginia Beach.
Well, I remember that show. That was a bizarre show. Right? Yeah. It was bizarre though. But I'll play the guitar until whatever, as long as the strings are okay. Because even for me, I don't understand. Like even when I've had a guitar tech on tour, when they'll ask me like,
Yeah.
oh, how many times do you want me to change the strings? And I usually tell them like, maybe 5 shows in,
Mhm.
change them 4 or 5, you know.
Yeah.
But you know, I don't understand like changing them every day and stuff. It's just like the strings need to really get worn in, you know, like they're
Yeah, I
still
find like day 2 strings are the best. They still
yeah,
sparkle, but they hold their tune. Like if
yeah,
they made a guitar string that stayed on day 2 for like a month, I would buy them. But
yeah,
because like for me, I don't know what it is, but by day 3, they're starting to get a little slippery or not like anti-slippery. And
yeah,
then, yeah, I just have to get rid. And then there's part of me that's just like, I don't want to break a string on stage, and so it's like a mental thing too.
yeah.
Right.
But there's
Right.
also like the tone, you start to lose tone too, you know, when
Yeah,
the
then you lose the
strings
ability to stay in tune. When you play Gibsons, you gotta eliminate those possibilities anyway.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have any tuning problems with your Les Pauls?
Not generally, because I always put good machines on them.
Yeah.
I have what my most expensive Les Paul actually has tuning issues, but it's because the machines are just crap for some reason, despite the guitar being what it is. But yeah, the other thing I do is now I use nut lubricant,
Uh-huh.
like the Big Ben's nut sauce,
Yeah.
and that's super helpful. I got into
Yeah.
that like a couple of years, like 2 years ago, because I've had my nut replaced on my custom a couple times, and it used to be like synthetic bone, and now it's real
Uh-huh.
bone.
Uh-huh.
I find that real bone kind of sticks sometimes,
Yeah.
and so
Yeah.
that stuff eliminates it. Plus, you can kind of just it's one more thing. It's like a fresh set of strings where you just eliminate in your
Yeah.
mind these things that might make you self-conscious when you're playing.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
bend the string and not worry about it getting
Right.
stuck in the slot.
Have you tried
So
GravTech?
What's that?
Have you
I was
tried
just gonna
GravTech?
No, because every time every time I've gone to do a new nut, the tech's always like, well, they don't last as long. Like bone is best, they don't last as long as bone. And I'm
Really?
like, well, this is like I'm like on my 4th bone nut on this guitar. It's my most heavily used guitar, but still.
Yeah.
But yeah, I probably I'm due to
I'm
try it.
I'm I want to get one guitar with the brass nut because I'm curious about it.
Uh-huh.
And you know, and the other one that you just spoke of, Roger, the what is it called?
GravTech.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
and this is a question maybe you can answer, Roger. So I have one guitar behind me that I've been using for my other band, Ruinous, which tuned to A. And
Mhm.
also that guitar's got 24 scale, you know, so but it's staying in tune pretty well. But I was thinking maybe with that new nut, maybe it'll help even the tuning stability a little bit more. I don't know, you know,
It
like tune
could.
down the
Yeah. Yeah.
I
I
have a question for Roger then. So
Uh-oh.
I went down a rabbit hole. There's this YouTube channel of this guy, Jazz Albrecht, who used to work for Guitar for the Practicing Musician, I think it was.
Uh-huh.
He's been uploading all the audio from his interviews from like the 70s and 80s. And there was a Van Halen interview where he was asking him what kind of nut material he prefers. And he said, I don't care. He says, the nut only matters for the open strings. He's like,
True.
otherwise, if you're
Good
fretting
point.
all the notes, then
Yeah.
it doesn't really matter. It's just for the open strings when it comes to tone. And that was the
When it
first.
comes
So,
I'm
like,
sorry, go ahead.
people will say, like, a brass nut will brighten up your tone, but will it if you're fretting and playing a bar chord? Does it even matter?
No. If you're playing a bar chord, I mean, then, you know,
Playing the frets.
your finger's the nut at that point.
Yeah.
But here's and this is why I kind of blurted GravTech. usually if a guitar comes in here and especially if they have a plastic nut, not typically a bone nut, but plastic nut, cheaper nut,
Yeah.
whatever, some lower grade synthetic nuts, if they're having tuning
Oh, yeah.
stability issues, I recommend a GravTech nut, and it almost always fixes the problem putting a self-lubricating nut on there. So,
Yeah, that's
I
what I thought, but
but tuning stability, yeah, but you're dead on point. Like, once you start doing bar chords, the nut doesn't matter,
yeah.
but for tuning issues, it does. I think it helps it stay in tune better.
All right. Yeah, 'cause
Nut, I would argue that the nut is probably more important. There's probably 50 million people that'll say I'm wrong. I think the nut is more important regarding tuning than the tuning keys.
I could see that because the tuning keys, I mean, every guitar I have that's got like, you know, any level of good tuning machines on them, once the guitar is in tune for the show, it's in tune.
Yeah, yeah,
Unless some sort of temperature change or something happens, like
right,
you're playing in the sunshine, then the sun goes down halfway through your set, then you're
right.
gonna. But yeah, that's been my issue is like I get stuck like on the D or the G. Sometimes I'll like do a wide vibrato and then I go to play a power chord. It's like
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
why I started using that lubricant, and then it works fine. So
right. Yeah, that I found there's one that I use, I think it's called Slick Nuts, has a
uh,
little bit of
they all
graphite
have
in it.
great names.
What's that?
They all have great names.
Yeah,
Nut
yeah,
Jar.
every one of them do. Every single one. But I tried that one and I actually have it on my bench behind me. It has a little bit of graphite mixed in with it. Man, I almost think sometimes that gives me problems with tuning.
Really?
I had it's an Ibanez Strat style guitar, and we immediately the owner wanted to swap out the synthetic nut and put a GravTech on it, and we put a Vegatron on it. And I had more problems when I was using the slick nuts, keeping that thing in tune than when I just kept it clean. It was also a self-lubricating GravTech nut. So
Oh, okay.
maybe I was just overkilling it, you know?
Yeah. I mean, it was a revelation to me years ago when I discovered that if you just get rid of all the gunk in the nut, that will do something.
Yeah, yeah. If you do that and have it angled right, you know, that's a lot of it right there. So, especially with Les Pauls, you know, you get the strings kinda angled towards the tuning keys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now this is yeah, we're nerding out. We're talking about nuts in depth. I mean, we've reached
Yeah,
it.
we just turned everybody off, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, us the 3 of us and both of the people watching.
Yeah.
People are like, "You're hurting my brain right now."
Now they're literally hearing our phone conversations during the week.
Oh
Yeah.
my god.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
These guys know how to party or what?
yeah, yeah.
I mean, this is what Friday
It's
nights
like-
look like.
Yep.
I think we talked about this in the last interview with Jeremy when people were saying like, "Oh, what do these guys do backstage?" And it's like, "Oh, me and Jeremy are sitting there nerding out about P90 pickups and
Yeah.
you know,
Doing this.
Yeah.
2 hours or whatever, you know."
I'm getting ready
So-
to make a set. You know, I thought I was gonna have a break into action. You know, I looked at the outer room out there, and I looked at my wife. I said, "Man, there's 2 guitars. Once they pick them up, then I'm gonna wind some pickups. I'm gonna get a set of P90s knocked out." And then it was like more guitars came in. So, and when I have a downtime, I usually like to just sit back and wind stuff. I haven't done P90s in a while.
The amount of times I said when I have downtime.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I said, "When I retire, I'm gonna do all this stuff," and I haven't done shit except for
Yeah.
work on guitars, which has been fun. It's been
Yeah.
awesome. The
Labor
business
of
side
love.
of it is a little bit weird. The guitar part is awesome. The people are pretty cool dealing with all them. They're all great to deal with. The worst part is the bullshit that you have to deal with, like on the business side, like the taxes,
Yeah.
excuse me, and this is not an exaggeration. Every day this week, I've gotten phone calls telling me that my business isn't listed on Google Voice, and I need to have it listed. So 12 I'm not exaggerating, 12 times a day they call me telling me this. So this is my little diatribe about small business and trying to run a small business.
Yeah.
So they bug you all day long. So first couple times I screwed with them, then I hung up on them, and then I was like, all right, well, I'll go with them and see what this is all about. So they say, well, they can't find you on Google search. And I was like, well, there's a lot of people coming in my shop for not being able to find me. They're finding me somehow.
Right.
So I said, what's this entail? So they go through the whole thing to see if I'm eligible. And okay, it's $19.99 a month. And I was like, okay, so now can I decline because I'm not interested? I mean, if people don't come, they don't come. Whatever.
Right.
It is what it is. And she literally said, well, I mean, until you do this, they're going to keep calling you. And that's the no shitter of the century. They have literally, every morning I start my day by blocking the first number, and then it fills up my voicemail the rest of the day. 12 calls a day.
They just call you they're going to harass you into paying them. It's like extortion.
Yeah, it's extortion. I've said that 1,000 times because every time it happens, I still get mad.
Well, I know so many people who, they start a small business for reasons of passion like yourself, and then they say it's like you get taken away from the passion to deal with like the paperwork.
Yeah.
I mean, being in a band is like that in a lot of ways. Once when you're lucky enough to have a certain amount of success, you also are misfortunate enough to have to deal with all kinds of just strange things where you have these conversations with yourself like, this is not what I pictured when I was
you're like
wanting to be a rock star or whatever.
Yeah. The guitar, the fun part about it is like you all are on stage, but being in the support role for the people on stage is kind of cool too,
Yeah. You're part of the community. You're essential.
The part that ruins it is like, paying your taxes. For some reason, Virginia was nice enough to double charge me on my sales tax last month or some tax. And knowing government after 30 years of being in government, I know it's going to cost me more in time to get the money back.
Yeah. And then I have a friend who owns a construction business, and he was just like, yeah, last year, New York changed the taxes for small businesses, and I wound up having to pay blah, 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 thousands of dollars. And he's like, I had no idea. It's just, they try to make it hard so that you'll just go work for the billionaires, I guess.
Yeah. You're exactly right. And you know what? When I first started doing this, I had one of the big box stores. They knew I was getting close to retirement and knew I was doing this. And they were like, hey, come to work for us. And I said, how much? They said, and this had been long ago. This is just a few years ago. He said, well, I think we're starting our people off at like $7 an hour. And at the time, I think my daughter was 17 and working at Target. And this was before she went to college, so it must have been about 5 years ago. I said, I make a little bit more than that at my current job, and I can't make less than my 17-year-old.
Yeah, dude.
It's like, what the hell?
Well, that's part of the issue with like the music business or the arts in general is like they know we're passionate, we love it, and so there's a certain amount of exploitability involved with somebody. Like, I'm going to write songs and play guitar and be in bands for as long as I can foresee. Whether I'm getting paid money to do it or not.
Right.
That's easy prey if you're not careful as a musician to be taken advantage of by people who want to offer you things like exposure or, whatever else, whatever. We have a budget for everything else in this project, but not for music for some reason,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
True.
Well, I don't think any of us do this for the money, right? I mean, it's like, I told you that pain in the rear end the guitar was behind me. If I charge that guy, by the hour,
Oh, right.
or you can't do that stuff. I mean, I do it. I just do it by the job. Like, yeah, you have to do it for the love of it too. Like you with music.
Right. You
Mhm.
you write a song because you believe in it. You write an album because it's you're in a band with people you believe in and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And money's not a I guess money could become a factor if you blow up and then you have a
Yeah.
bunch of it and it makes
Yeah.
people get weird around each other. But
Yeah.
uh, unfortunately, we've not found ourselves in that boat. So,
I don't have that problem.
but we get to go cool places and hang with cool people, and it's really about the experience. And you still just have to keep an eye out and an ear out for people whose interests are not with you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there are people that get paid to help bands that deserve the money, like good booking agents and stuff like that. And then there are going to be
Yeah.
people who maybe are sniffing around who think you might be something they could be a bottom feeder of, and
Right.
you just gotta be savvy, I guess.
Well, Alex, I just want to make you this promise. Like, when you get super like a bazillionaire, you don't ever have to feel weird about me, weird around me. Like, feel perfectly normal and just give me some money.
Yeah.
Boy,
Feel
never
perfectly
gonna-
comfortable taking me out to dinner at
Yeah.
steakhouse.
I don't want. Look, I'm only thinking of you. I don't want you to feel weird. I'm thinking.
if I was a billionaire, I would be living on an island somewhere, and I'd have my own studio, and I would just fly my friends in, and I wouldn't go anywhere. I would be not on tour. I'd just be
Wow.
making records. That's it.
That's a good plan.
I don't think I'd tour anymore. I'd be like, screw it. Why do I need the tour? I could just make all these records, invite my friends over, we can make great music.
You
know,
fly in for the good things.
People can come over I can have a show on my island,
Right.
and there's my gigs right there. I'm not, then I can go home and, to my wife and my daughter.
There you
Chill
go.
out.
That's the
You
move.
guys tomorrow,
But you
sounds like-
with $1 billion, you wouldn't want to sit in a van for 10 hours a day. And
I don't want to sit in a van 10 hours a day, any day.
I know
Yeah.
I love playing, but the other 23 hours of the day don't get more fun.
Yeah. It's that hour or hour and a half or whatever that's on stage, and the rest of it is just sure fucking hell, It's just like, that's just the reality.
Yep.
Except when me and Germany talking guitar nerds stuff, hanging out.
It's super helpful to go on tour with bands that have people in them that you get on with,
Oh yeah.
That's also what it's about, like the camaraderie and stuff.
Yeah.
And just like
True.
seeking knowledge. Like when I've gone out with bands that are like older than me or have more experience, I'm definitely the guy who's like asking the questions or just observing, like, oh, this guy's successful. What are his daily behavior patterns? Okay, he's taking care of himself, or he's doing this, and then, wow, that guitar sounds really good. What's the formula here? What's on the floor? What's in the back? Like,
Yeah.
how are those hands hitting the strings? Which is really where most of it is. But
Right.
It's like we all learn something from each other, I think.
oh yeah,
Exciting thing. The meeting of the minds,
yeah. I mean, when I joined Black Anvil, Gary was still in the band, and I'm definitely like more of a technically proficient guitar player than him, and in terms of like lead guitar and that kind of stuff. But his rhythm playing and his hand intonation, his chord intonation, everything else was so good that I was just like, shit, I got to get better at that, like,
Yeah.
like you
Well,
just,
I mean-
there's just, and his tone was just monstrous. And I was like, I need more of that.
Yeah.
So like, as an example, like there's somebody, when I told him years later after he left the band, like how much I took from him playing, he was surprised because like, you're a really good guitar player. I was like, well, thank you. I'm like, but I don't think you realize how good you are.
Right.
Yeah. It's just like, you you got your Jimmy Page, and then you have Steve Howe, two totally different players. You know, there's something special about both of them. You know,
Right.
Jimmy's not a technical player. We know that. You know, and
but he's
you know,
songwriting and riff. It's
like,
like, it's what you do with your creativity, and your limitations become sometimes the spark of your creativity. Like,
yeah.
I know what I can't do, but what I can do, I'm gonna harness and just try to lasso it and make it work.
Yeah. Speaking of downtime, I have to practice for like an hour, so I'm gonna have to probably.
I was
head
going to
off.
say he looks like he's going to go to sleep.
I got to go over a bunch of insane songs for a one-off show
At
in,
11:45 at night. All right.
yeah.
I'm gonna go to bed. That's what
Yeah.
Oh yeah. That's what's down. You know.
I'm going to say I am, but I know it won't happen. All right. Thanks everybody for joining us. Don't forget to, if you're still hanging in there at 2 hours and 15 minutes,
Yeah.
don't forget to subscribe and like the channel. You
Mhm.
can be number 173.
Yeah, and also check out Sanhedrin. And where can we find Sanhedrin's music?
Well, I'm glad you asked. We have a website that's kind of like a link tree. You go to www.sanhedrin.nyc. You'll get links there to our social media stuff, YouTube, our merch store, everything's there. We're on all the social media stuff too, except for, I guess, the ones we're not on. So yeah, but that would be the place to go. And if you'd be so kind, maybe go to metalblade.com/Sanhedrin and pick up our last record called Lights On while you wait for the next one.
Yeah.
And also, you got a YouTube channel too, Jeremy.
Yes, I do. I took a little break over the summer because I took a little summer gig doing some other stuff, but it's called North Country Riff Works, and it's just gear nerd crap like this, but just more exploring gear, basically trying to add to the resources on YouTube of, I wonder what this thing sounds like if you do this. Oh, there's not a video for it? Well, I have the stuff. Let me make one, So
awesome.
So give that a follow because that'll get back up and running in September. So I got a lot of ideas in the pipeline for that. I just have been busy with life stuff for the summer. But so yeah, that's about it.
All right,
man.
everybody. Thanks for everybody. Hold on.
Thanks for checking it out, folks.
Yeah, thank you.